point. There are many of you crying, I want to hear God. Give yourself to prayer. You pray to a point, the voice of God bursts open. The celestial realm opens. When you pray to a point, you can't lack the voice of God. You can't.
Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Here with us today we have a short clip by God's choice servant, Apostle Suleman, which I believe is going to be a blessing to your life. So watch till the end.
Another little fox that we must tear down is called prayerlessness. Prayerlessness is a little fox that we must tear down. In 1 Thessalonians 5:17, he said, pray without ceasing. In other words, don't stop praying. Don't stop praying. There are other things the Bible tells us you can cease to do. But when it's prayer, pray without ceasing. Hear me, child of God. When you don't feel like praying, start praying. When you don't feel like praying, start praying. Anytime there's a feeling inside of you to sit down and just cower in retreat and fear, start praying. Many nations, wars have been stopped by prayer. Normal, ordinary men have become extraordinary by prayer. Deadly infirmities have bowed to the principles of prayer. Men that were not learned, men that were not schooled, they've had opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with men that are heavily tutored because they pray. For when they saw the disciples, they perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men. Acts chapter 4 verse 13. But they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. When they saw the disciples, the Pharisees saw them. When they saw their bold, when the Pharisees and the Sadducees saw how bold, how vociferous these people were, the Bible said they looked at them and they took knowledge of them. Your generation can take knowledge of you if you pray. When you pray, you don't end up as an echo, you end up as a voice. When a man gives himself to prayer, God takes him from a non-entity to a some entity, from a nobody to a somebody, from the backside to the front side, from an obstacle to a miracle. If a man can give himself to prayer, you can put nations on their knees. Hear me, child of God, whether you are male or female, God says pray without ceasing. Prayer is the only institution, the only school you learn by praying. You learn prayer by praying prayer. You don't learn prayer by just taking notes. You learn prayer by praying prayer. He says when you pray, say. When you pray, say. His disciples met him in John chapter 11 from verse 1. They said, teach us to pray as John taught his disciple to pray. So I'm sure they took a pen and a paper and they sat down waiting for him to roll out lectures. And he said, okay, when you pray, say, our Father. Start saying it. In other words, the way to learn prayer is to pray prayer. Prayer is the only act you learn on the job. Your expertise is on the platform of your constant practice. Nobody has a gift to pray. People exercise themselves into championship. Nobody has a gift to pray. People exercise themselves. I've told you the story that the first time when I heard that somebody prayed for so and so hours, I tried it. 13 minutes was like 3 hours. I tried it. I tried it. I tried it. I went on. I remember the time, the first time I ever prayed 1 hour in my life, I felt like Jesus would come that day. I prayed for 1 hour. I felt like a spiritual Superman. I felt like a celestial Voltron. I felt any demon I see now is in trouble. I didn't know that 1 hour prayer is for children's church. Jesus said, could you not watch for at least 1 hour? So the least in the kingdom can debate 1 hour. Later I prayed for 2 hours. I prayed for 3 hours. I prayed for... The more you spend time in prayer, the more you get filled with God. The more you spend time in prayer, the more you don't know time is going. I've prayed for 2 hours. I prayed for 10 hours. I've prayed for 24 hours. I've prayed for 30 hours. Non-stop. I mean, praying for 24 hours was a regular thing when we started. Mama Kabosh, myself, and some pastors will be in the house. We'll start praying in the morning and the next morning. Non-stop. If you're tired of standing, you sit. You're tired of sitting, you stand. You're tired of standing, you sit. You're tired of sitting, you stand. Till the next day, we must complete 24 hours. But today, when I see people, we just do 10-hour intimacy. Some people almost die. 10-hour intimacy, some people almost gone. After 10 hours, they are coming out and I see them and say, what happened? It is well, sir. For 10 hours only. Prayer! I'm going to tell you a few things about prayer. And it's very important you just write them down and you begin to study them. The first thing prayer does, prayer opens you up to the voice of God. A man or a woman that gives his or herself to prayer becomes acquainted with the voice of God. God speaks. The Bible says in Luke 81, he spake a parable to this end that men ought always to pray and not to offend. He said in that city there was a woman. In that same city there was a judge. And the woman met the judge and said all kinds of stuff. The judge wouldn't listen. But after a while, the judge spoke. You can trigger divine voice. You can trigger the audibility of the voice of God when you pray. When you can pray yourself to a point. There are many of you crying, I want to hear God. Give yourself to prayer. You pray to a point, the voice of God bursts open. The celestial realm opens. When you pray to a point, you can't lack the voice of God. You can't lack direction. You can't lack what to do. The reason today you are not hearing God is you have not prayed to a level where God is moved to speak. Even if God had no intention of talking, there's a level a man prays to God. Say, I didn't want to say anything, but I'm saying something now. The man said, I'm not stopping. 12 hours today, 13 hours tomorrow, 10 hours the other day. God said, no, I'm not. I have to say something. I have to say something. He said to Daniel chapter 10 verse 12, from the first day that thou didst set thy heart to chasten thyself before the Lord thy God, thy words were heard, and I have come for thy words. 1 day, 2 days, Daniel continued. On the 21st day, God spoke. God spoke. Prayer opens you up to the voice of God. Tell your neighbor, prayer opens you up to the voice of God. Prayer kills the effectiveness of the flesh. Prayer kills the effectiveness of the flesh. When a man gives himself to prayer, the flesh is less or almost ineffective. If you can give yourself to prayer, the flesh dies. My little children, whom I travail in bed, Galatians 4:19, until Christ be formed. As you travail, there is a formation. As you travail, there is a formation. There's a transition. When a man gives himself constantly to prayer, Christ is being formed. So the more you pray, the more the formation. The more you pray, the more the formation. And the formation gets to a point of total consumption of the flesh. There is no more you that liveth, but Christ that liveth in you. I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ that liveth in me. The life I now live, I live in the faith of the glory of the Son of God, who gave himself for me. You must get to the point you understand. Galatians 2:20. You must get to the point you understand that your formation is on the platform of your communion. When you spend time, Christ is being formed. The nature of God, the character of the Spirit, the attitude of divinity, celestial character, celestial is formed. So the less you pray, the less formation you experience. Tell somebody, I will pray. Tell somebody, I will pray. I can't say, I will pray. Because you are praying, there's a formation. Your spiritual life is being built up. He said, building up yourself. Jude verse 20, Jude 1 verse 20. Building up yourself in your most holy faith. Praying in the Holy Ghost. Shakato parita. Are you following what I'm talking about? Number 3, prayer activates the gift of the Spirit. The gift of the Spirit. Prayer activates the gift of the Spirit. Everyone that gets the Holy Ghost, everyone that is born again and gets filled with the Holy Ghost, by the impartation of the Spirit, the gifts were imputed alongside the infilling. Are you following what I'm talking about? Oh, you're not getting me. As the Holy Ghost falls on a man, the gift was imputed. It was juxtaposed, superimposed alongside the filling of the Spirit. But it's not activated unless the